Hello and welcome to the Backlot 605 box office. I am your host, Brian Mensing, and joining me as always is my co host, Derrick Veurink. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. You?
Not too bad. It's been kind of a semi-quiet weekend this weekend and whatnot. I see you're spouting the Batman for another week in a row.
Yeah, I'm almost tempted to do this as long as Batman is number one at the box office, which could be for a while. We'll see. So
Do you at least have more than one or a couple of them to recycle, or do you have a bunch of them that you're gonna be able to use?
I, I have more. I actually have a The Batman T-shirt that I
Hmm.
bought for the movie. So I have not worn that on camera yet. But next week, kids, next week. Stay tuned.
Well, I mean, at least for my garb today and whatnot, I know that Sam and Casey would be proud because of my Maniac shirt. All right. So, yes, let's dive into this week's box office. A lot of what we're probably going to talk about is going to be a lot of what we've already talked about because we didn't have any new movies this week.
well,
Let me
th-
rephrase. Not at least theatrically, right?
that's correct. There is one new thing that cracked the top five, but we'll get to that when we get to that because it is what it is. But
Okay. All right. So yeah, coming in this week, number one, no surprise, The Batman comes in at number one with $66 million, taking a 51% drop. Like you've got on here, 238.52 total for its 2 weeks. Uh, this, and I've made mention about this. That these are the kind of numbers that now I think that we're starting to kind of get back into like normalcy for drops from week to week. That this seems pretty on par, I would say, for Batman.
yeah, I mean, I with any blockbuster, I would be happy with any second weekend drop that's under 60%.
Hmm.
And so for the Batman to do 51% is actually very promising. Especially given like last week we talked about how that opening weekend had several nights of preview showings that
True.
boosted up that total. Another thing that we did not talk about last week, but we should probably mention here, several of the big theater chains actually had surcharges on their regular ticket prices for the opening weekend of the Batman.
That's right. Because
Um,
wasn't it AMC that was toying with that?
yeah, so AMC CEO went on record and said that they were charging an extra dollar for opening weekend tickets for the Batman. And that had gotten me curious. So I checked our local Cinemark
Hmm.
theaters, and they were doing a 50-cent surcharge just on opening weekend tickets for the Batman.
Yeah.
Once you got to the Monday after opening weekend, it was back to regular prices just like any other movie. But that I think that's also worth noting here because that also inflated that opening weekend total. So if you would back
Sure.
those out, we'd probably be in like a 45% drop instead of a 51% drop, which
Yeah.
just shows how well the Batman is having from a word of mouth perspective and how well it's going to hold up basically through this entire month of March and I'm sure well into April as well.
Yeah. So are you thinking that maybe the theaters are using this as a way to kind of like test the waters in like
I,
opening weekends so that way maybe they can spread it out over a couple weeks maybe? Like somebody's gonna be like, I'll wait a week if it means that it's gonna be a dollar cheaper next week as opposed to doing an opening weekend.
I mean, that's certainly a possibility. I mean, you and I both know as people who like to go to their superhero movies as soon as humanly possible, that there is that opening weekend front loading because, the fear of missing out, the fear of being spoiled. And I
Hmm.
think, the theater chains are kind of recognizing that and they say, like, well, I mean, it's a surge pricing tactic of sorts. I mean, people want to go see these movies as soon as they can. So why not take advantage of it? Especially, given all they've been through over the course of the past 2 years now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, I suppose. I mean, I guess I could kind of see like if you're going to adjust prices and whatnot, I'd say is that if there's a way that they can be able to try to stay profitable, like I totally get that, but at least make it in the realm of that it doesn't feel like it's trying to take advantage of the customer and do something that in a way that would become beneficial. Like I think of like the cheap Tuesdays at like
yep.
the Cinemark and like what West Mall does. And it's like, if you have a means of like, all right, so if it is going to be X amount of dollars on a certain day or certain things, okay, fine. If it means it's going to entice somebody to go like on a Wednesday or Thursday or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
Another thing I'll mention real quick is I also know that Warner Brothers is actually asking a bigger chunk of the ticket sale revenue from
mm,
the Batman. Because I know this kind of ties into what happened last year. So 2021, the big deal where Warner Brothers dual released all their movies on HBO Max, and that ticked
hmm
off theater owners. So Warner Brothers made the concession of like, we will give you the theaters the majority of the ticket sales. I think the theaters got like 60%, and Warner
oh,
Brothers got
okay.
40, something like that. For the Batman, because this is the first Warner Brothers movie of 2022, and we'll get to that
hmm
in a little bit with regards to HBO Max. But from what I read, Warner Brothers is taking 55% of the ticket proceeds, and theaters get 45. So it's not as bad as like Disney taking 65% of
I,
Star Wars ticket sales.
I was gonna say, and Disney's pretty on par with doing like a 60-65 just in general, aren't they? So,
For the most part, I think they steered it a little bit more for like the Star Wars, the MCU movies,
yeah, of course.
but and so Warner Brothers didn't go to that extreme, but that is notable. The other thing I wanted to mention is because this is the first Warner Brothers movie of 2022, this is now introducing the brand new HBO Max strategy, which is that going forward, every Warner Brothers movie will debut on HBO Max 45 days after they open in theaters. So
hmm
that's why we have the date of April 19th for HBO Max for the Batman, because that'll be the first instance of this new 45-day waiting period.
Good. And I do see this as a good advantage. This does at least give the theaters a majority of the time that they need to be able to make the money from these movies and whatnot. But then also leveraging like the HBO Max, Disney Plus, stuff like that, just because, as as much as you and I like to buy our movies, everything like that, you and I both could probably understand there's a legitimate reason for these businesses like Warner Brothers and Disney and everybody, Paramount, everybody to do their subscriptions because
Yep.
they're going to make more money. I mean, it makes total sense. And you know what? You know, if it means I don't necessarily have to buy it right away, I can certainly wait for a sale now instead of buying it opening, when it comes out physically to buy too. So, I think there's advantages to which way they're going with it.
Yeah, and again, this isn't entirely limited to just Warner Brothers with HBO
Yeah,
Max, because Peacock is going to do the same 45-day window with Universal movies.
we're
Oh,
seeing
what
that
was it?
right now with Scream.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
With Scream with Paramount is already on Paramount Plus now.
is it on Paramount Plus? I know it's on VOD services, but I didn't think it had actually gone straight to Paramount Plus.
It
Now,
is. I happened to check because I got a notification on my Xbox that Scream 5 was on Paramount Plus, and I've already checked because they did the same thing with the 355 as well.
oh wow, you're right. Scream is on Paramount Plus already. That is
Yep.
impressive. I had seen all the advertising about it hitting digital, but you would think if it was on Paramount Plus, the Paramount Plus would have done a better job advertising that. But very weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's going to become the standard now for a lot of studios and their integrated services. So there you
And
go.
this is one of those things where I do think that the studios like Sony and Lionsgate, those ones that don't have the streaming service attached to their own studios or anything like that, that's where I think they are going to potentially hurt from because somebody might not buy that movie right away, but they might spend the even the $5 a month. They're still getting the money out of these customers, where that's where like Sony and Lionsgate don't have those, where they're having to sell the rights and distribution to other parties.
Yeah. And speaking of Sony, that leads us into our number two movie.
Yeah. Number
Oh
oh
yeah, that's right. I forgot about this. So if you go back to that,
you changing
uh,
things
la-
up on me.
yeah, I forgot to mention this to you. So last week when we did our Batman bonus episode, I had obliquely mentioned that I was going to bring this list over
That's right.
to the main show as we watched the Batman ascend up the list. And so as of this weekend, the Batman has already gone from number 10th last weekend to number 5 this weekend, just barely nudging out Justice League from 2017,
Yeah,
and right behind Tim Burton's Batman. So we're going to see some pretty decent movement over the next at least couple of weeks on this
definitely.
chart. Will
I,
it
I
top either of the Nolan Dark Knight sequels? Possibly not, but it's still going to make a good showing.
I mean, just looking at this and looking like what it did from last week to this week and whatnot, I do see that it's clearly going to overtake Tim Burton's Batman at number
Yep.
4. And I think it has a very good, strong footing to overtake Batman v Superman. Um,
Hmm.
but maybe The Dark Knight Rises, but otherwise, I think especially once it hits in that 45 days to hit HBO Max, it's going to start to lose steam. I don't necessarily think it's going to be able to overtake the Nolan Batmans.
No, no. I mean, I'll also be curious if Morbius puts any dent in the Batman's
Mm.
legs. It may a little bit, but maybe not as much as others might think. So
But doesn't Morbius release about the same time as the Batman hits HBO Max?
Morbius is on April 1st, and that is not an
Oh,
April
okay.
Fool's joke.
That's right. They moved it again.
Yes, yes.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I guess we will certainly see in about 3.5 weeks.
Yeah.
All right. So going into that, number 2, Uncharted, 9.25 million. Actually only taking a 17% drop. So as you and I basically have said, whatever, from a week to week, 17% is actually really good.
Ye-
And but I mean 9.25 for number 2, it's definitely chump change compared to the Batman.
Yeah, but holding as well as it has in the midst of the Batman,
Hmm.
I think that's pretty notable. Again, I think it's going to leg out pretty well to like the 130, maybe even 140 region, which, for Sony in this day and age, I think that's pretty good. And again, it's going to justify them making another sequel or however long they have Tom Holland under contract for these. So
Hmm.
it'll work out.
Oh yeah. I don't think it's a matter of if they're going to greenlight a sequel. I think it's a
It's
matter
when.
of it's a matter of when
I,
just like what you made mention about the contract with Holland and whatnot. I think it's a matter of Tom Holland is that hot young actor right now. Sony has him attached to multiple things, and they are going to use and abuse that poor kid until they can no longer do it. I think.
yeah, I mean, I'm genuinely surprised they haven't just made the formal Uncharted 2 is coming out in February of 2024 or
Hmm.
whatever. Maybe they're just waiting for figuring out how Spider-Man 4 is going to fit into his schedule first. Who knows? So,
I honestly I think that's a big part of it. I think it's a matter of with Amy Pascal coming on board of basically saying that, oh no, Holland's got like 3 more Spider-Man movies in him and whatnot. It's a matter of Sony going, all right, how are we supposed to juggle him in 2 franchises simultaneously? I
yes,
think that's exactly why we had. Otherwise, I think they would have pulled a like Warner Brothers did
a
with Dune.
Dune.
The
Yep.
first week. Oh, yep, we're good. All right, cool. Dune 2. You know, I don't yeah, I agree. I think it's just a matter of when because I think they're on the struggle bus of trying to schedule him between that and Spider-Man. Like he's got no time for anything else for the next like 7 years.
No, before he gets too old, they got to get it in. So,
But that's what not to get completely off target for the sake of Uncharted and whatnot, but I think Holland at this age and whatnot, and if they do it right between for the sake of Spider-Man out of college into the work, whatever. They're I think time is on their side because it's not like Toby Maguire who's trying to play a high schooler when he's like 30. I think this time they actually have a little bit of time on their side. So I guess we'll see.
yeah, yeah.
All right, number 3. Wow. Okay, call me
This is I did
this.
not tell you about this at all, but this
No,
is
no.
actually something that happened.
But at the same time, too, these are one of those like the one-offs. Clearly, as you have it here, number 3, BTS Permission to Dance, $6.84 million, a one-day concert event. Um, for the sake of, I'm familiar with BTS, and I do understand their huge popularity. So even though we didn't bring this up last week, for this to literally just pop in, wave the hand, say hi, we're here, kind of thing. Honestly, I'm not surprised because I see that you got in here. It's the $35 per ticket price. Again, if it's a one-day concert, would it get? Again, it's like one of the Fathom events. They're usually more expensive.
Yep.
So the fact that these guys have um, the popularity that they do, uh, to have these show up in the top five, honestly, I'm not surprised. And obviously, clearly next week, since it's a 1 day thing, we're not going to talk about them again. But I know I go to
Yeah.
three, I'm like, what is this?
Yeah. So part of the reason I didn't put this in our next weekend list, last weekend show, was because with these special events, it's never entirely clear if we're going to get box office numbers for these. Because
Sure.
like most of the Fathom events, we don't get those numbers.
Yeah.
But also because it was just, again, it was a 1 day event. So to give the backstory, so this is a concert that BTS did in Seoul, South Korea, this past Saturday. They taped it and then tape delayed it and then broadcast it into North American theaters Saturday night. They did two showings, a 3:30 p.m. show and a 7:30 p.m. show. And they put it into 800 theaters for those who support the Fathom events like technology. And again, they charge across the board, across the nation, $35 per ticket for people who wanted to see this. And that's how they were able to scoop together nearly $7 million from BTS fans. This isn't the first time that there has been a BTS movie in theaters.
Hmm.
So I had enough of a vibe where seeing this on the schedule and kind of seeing some of the seat maps for our local theaters filling up reasonably well gave me the impression that maybe we'd end up talking about this after all. And then as we got the number on Sunday morning that it did this well, I'm like, well, we kind of have to talk about it. So,
Yeah.
but again, we've talked about this before with like specialty programming where there'd be like anime movies surprising
Hmm.
its way into the top five or other random things. And this just adds to it. And, again, with BTS, not unlike Tom Holland, they have to strike while the iron's hot and while these kids are young and doing their thing and before they have to
Yep.
go to their mandatory Korean military service. So, yeah, there's money to be made.
Oh,
And
of
the
course.
fact that the BTS fans are still showing up in droves like 3 years later is impressive.
Oh yeah, I think for the sake of current pop groups and whatnot, they're not going around. They're not going away anytime soon. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if in like a year or so we're talking about these guys yet again. So,
Yeah.
but hey, like you said, do it while you can.
Yep.
All right, number four, Dog, $5.35 million, only taking a 13% drop in its fourth week. Is the March the 11th VOD a new thing, or was that on
This
there for last week?
I did not put this on here last week. This just sprung up unannounced on on Friday when my digital retailer emails came in and they said, "Hey, we have Dog on premium VOD rental for $20 now." So they spit it up considerably because again, that was a full 3 weeks after it opened in theaters. So I
Yep.
was kind of surprised, but then again, Dog has done pretty well in theaters as is already. It's getting
Yeah.
close to 50 million. I think we've talked about it before how well it's been doing for itself and for Channing Tatum's comeback. So I don't think this is going to hurt it at all. Again, it dropped only 13%, so it's doing strong.
Yeah.
This is coming from MGM, who's kind of been cornering the adult oriented fare a little bit more because they also put out House of Gucci, which also did in this 50-55 million realm as well. So I think they're kind of onto something with, taking movies aimed at a bit of an older audience and making bank with those because they know how to cast them and pull them off.
But if memory serves me correctly, with Dog, this has been a lot of profit. They've been in the black with this one here for quite some time, just because it was a very low budget type of drama. But like, say you bring up House of Gucci
Yeah,
from when it came out, whatever was. I mean, I obviously in terms of critically, it did fairly well critically in terms of how people were taking it, but financially, it didn't do so hot though, just because of everybody in wanting to whether or not they were going to go to the theater or not. Correct?
yeah. So I'm just looking up the budgets right now. Dog's budget is 15 million, so it
Yeah.
is definitely in the black. Comparative House of Gucci, which, for example, was I mean, oh yeah, House of Gucci's budget was $75 million.
Yeah.
But House of Gucci is also like the highest grossing adult drama that isn't part of any franchise since the start of COVID.
Yeah.
So you have to have some parameters, and Dog is probably going to pass Gucci when all is said and done here in a couple weeks. So again, it's good. Again, we're going to keep talking about Channing Tatum because we're now only a couple weeks out from The Lost City, which is also going to make a bunch of bank. The reviews that came out of South by Southwest on that movie this weekend have been very promising.
Good.
So, this is the year of Channing Tatum. So get ready for it.
I'm okay with that. I still kind of want to see Dog, but I think I will probably wait until I can, watch it at home and whatnot. But Lost City does look entertaining to be something that I wouldn't mind seeing on the big screen.
Yeah.
All right. So coming in at number 5. Hey, look, it's Tom Holland again. Spider-Man No Way Home, $4.08 million, only a 10% drop from week 12 to week 13. Honestly, I mean, considering the fact that this guy is competing with the Batman, and superhero to superhero and whatnot, I think only taking a 10% hit is actually pretty good. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
overall the entire weekend, I think from week past to week present and whatnot, I think overall everybody's done a fantastic job of treading very well, considering the Batman is basically overtaking everything.
Yeah. I mean, you see how close we are to the $800 million mark. We're now at 792. So it is just hanging in there. We should
Hmm.
also call out that it is at week number 13. So now we've been in theaters for a full 3 months and it's still in the top 5, which is very impressive in its own right.
Hmm.
Um, that said, I think there's a very good chance that it might finally fall out of the top 5 next weekend with the competition we've got coming. But still, this has been an impressive box office run, no matter how you slice it. And
No.
certainly something that I honestly never would have imagined happening to this huge of a success, even right before it came out.
Oh, for sure. Because I mean, even pre-COVID and whatnot, it took a lot for a movie to stay in the top 5 for this many weeks straight.
Oh, yeah.
Just because of what was coming out, and obviously there's a lot more movies that are going to streaming versus theaters now that would have potentially bucked it a little bit and whatnot. But yeah, the fact that we've been talking about this movie for 3 straight months is very impressive, and I'm curious to see what's going to be the next movie that even gets remotely close to being able to pull that, or do we finally get back into the super normal trend of within a few weeks it's past its top 5.
I I just don't know what's going to perform as well as No Way Home at this point.
Hmm.
Even a movie like Doctor Strange, which is going to try to do all this same multiverse craziness, as is the rumor, it's certainly going to certainly not going to reach No Way Home type of
No,
heights. That's
I
just what it is.
I mean, in terms of stuff that's on the docket and whatnot, and as much as you and I both are big fans of the Marvel movies and whatnot, I legit think it would honestly take Black Panther to to be the next one to remotely, because as much as I like Doctor Strange, I don't think it's got a chance. I don't.
No, I mean it's going to be the kickoff movie of the summer, which I think helps. But I think it's just going to get drowned out very quickly by some of the other big stuff that's coming. You know,
Hmm.
I mean, honestly, if I'm putting my eggs in a summer basket for a movie, it might be Jurassic World, simply because, that brand is durable, and you've got Sam Neill and Laura Dern and Jeff Goldblum all back for
Yeah,
that adventure.
yeah.
That'd be my gut feel, but who knows?
I guess we'll have to see. We'll have to have a year in review at the end of the year and see how everything kind of turned out.
Yeah. One other thing I want to point out about Spidey real quick.
Yeah.
Sony moved up the digital release date by a week. So it is now hitting digital this Tuesday, March 15th. It was supposed
Wow.
to be the 22nd, but I think in part due to the online piracy that's happening with this movie now, they decided to speed it up, and why not? So that might bring a hit to this movie as well next weekend. Who knows? But just something I wanted to point out.
Oh, definitely. I wouldn't be, I mean, not to get into the political stuff and whatnot, but I think everything that's going on in regards to piracy laws in certain other countries and whatnot, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the studios are making some adjustments to that as well.
Yeah, perhaps. So
That going said, we have our top five. Number one, The Batman at $66 million. Number two is Uncharted at 9.25 million. Number three, the unforeseeable BTS Permission to Dance comes in at 6.84 million. Dog comes in at at number four with $5.35 million, and Spider-Man rounds out our top five with $4.08 million. So a pretty, like I said, I mean, for the fact that all these other movies are okay, BTS being the asterisks in the group here, competing against the Batman and the percentage drops that they have, I think this is a very solid top five for, just before we get kind of into our spring and start getting into that warmer weather.
yep.
All right. So next week looks like we've got a couple of things here, and you are definitely going to help me out here because
Yeah.
this
You probably haven't heard of any of these. That's fair.
no. All right,
But
let's start from the top. What is X?
yeah, X is the new horror movie from A24. It's kind of being described as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre meets Boogie Nights. It's about a bunch of young folks in the 70s who uh, go into like a rural farmhouse to film a porn movie. And the owners of that farmhouse go medieval on them. So we'll see what it has. It stars Mia Goth, Jenna Ortega, and Kid Cudi. And it's from director Ty West, who made The House of the Devil and The Innkeepers and other horror movies that horror fans love. So
I I am intrigued. I'm definitely intrigued. I would certainly say, as being that it's A24, it's probably not going to get the mass love. So
we'll
maybe.
see. I think the trailers look pretty appealing. I don't think it's going to be as divisive as like your Ari Aster stuff or your Lighthouse or stuff like that. So
Yeah.
fingers crossed.
All right. What is
Uh,
the outfit?
the outfit is the new art movie from Focus Features. It stars Mark Rylance of Bridge of Spies and BFG and Ready Player One fame as a tailor. And one night in his tailor shop, mobsters break in and take him hostage. And so it's just one tense night. It also stars Dylan O'Brien from the Maze Runner movies. This again is a movie that's aiming toward the older audience. Will it do extremely well to hit in the top five? Maybe, maybe not. But this movie, along with all the others in this list, are coming to Sioux Falls. So if they're getting to Sioux Falls, and they are definitely making it into enough theaters to maybe go into the top five. So we'll
Hmm.
see.
All right. And Uma?
Yeah, Uma, which is a Korean for mother. This is a weird one because Sony only started marketing this movie like a week and a half ago. This is also a horror movie. It's produced by Sam Raimi, and it
Okay.
stars Sandra Oh as a mother. She and her daughter, who are like immigrants from Korea, they live on a farm and they receive Sandra Oh's mother's ashes. And there's some creepy stuff about maybe Sandra Oh turning into the spirit of her mother. I think it's kind of odd considering that I just watched Turning Red, which is also starring Sandra Oh and also has very much a mother daughter afraid of turning into her mother deal, but this time with no giant red pandas. So we'll see what happens.
Really cute red giant pandas.
That's right. That's right. They're very furry and fluffy. So
All right, and then Jujutsu Kaisen Zero, it looks like.
yeah, so this is the latest big anime movie to get a theatrical release. We've seen movies like Demon Slayer the movie or My Hero Academia, find their way into the top five, or in one case, even the number one slot.
Hmm.
Certainly, with the Batman in theaters, that's not going to happen. But this is going to be a big anime play this weekend. I know in Sioux Falls here, it's actually going to play on the Cinemark XD screen for one night only on Thursday
Wow.
night, which is usually a sign that that's an anime movie that's probably going to have a big enough following to make
Yeah.
an impact at the box office. So definitely, again, not all these are going to make the top 5, obviously, but I'm just throwing all these out here in case they do make an impact.
I would certainly say, I agree with you just for the sake of the last one there is that the audience that would go to an anime like this and whatnot, I think out of all of them, just in my experience, I think that out of all of them, do I think the one that has the most legs, at least for a 1 week push, is definitely going to be that anime. Just because I think that's the kind of one where they're going to rush out, they're going to bomb our shit. Is it going to beat Batman? Obviously not. Not going to happen. But I think it's going to definitely give everybody else a run for their money.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to put my eggs in the basket that we're going to see both Jujutsu and X in the top 5 next weekend. It's not going to take much for either of those to get up there, but they'll do enough. So,
Might be enough to we don't have to talk about Spider-Man again.
unfortunately, that'll be a sad day.
Oh, excuse me. All right. Well, that has been our top 5 for this week. Be sure to check us out every week as we discuss the different stuff going on in regards to the box office and how everything is going. If you want to follow us on social media, be sure to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd HQ, all at Backlot 605. You want to hear us talk about different movies and series that we've got going on, check out the podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, Amazon, and you can check out our pretty faces here on YouTube. If you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/backlot605 where you get bonus content as well. And go ahead and support us there. Anything else that we should talk about here, Derek?
Yeah, so this week on the Backlot 605 calendar, this Wednesday's regular feed episode continues Batman month with 95's Batman Forever. Yes, we get to talk about the OG, or I shouldn't say the OG Riddler because there was Frank Gorshin, but we do get to hear about Jim Carrey's Riddler and Tommy Lee Jones's Two-Face and Val Kilmer's one and only stint as Batman, so that should be fun. On the Patreon, I know there's been a little bit of delay with the episode on The Batman, but that is coming. And then I believe you guys are going to follow that up with Batman and Mr. Freeze Sub-Zero, the animated movie from the late 90s. Also, be sure to look at coming soon this week, where we'll talk about all the movies we just mentioned, plus some other streaming stuff, including Deep Water with Ben Affleck and Ana de Armas, and Disney Plus's Cheaper by the Dozen remake starring Zach Braff, because that's a thing that exists, and all sorts of other stuff that's coming to streaming. And then
Awesome.
also come back here tomorrow when our Backlot box office bonus episode will be on the movies of Pixar in honor of turning red.
Which I would certainly say is overall, I think people need to check out Turning Red. It's
Oh
cute.
yeah,
I
it's
definitely,
awesome.
I definitely enjoyed it. I don't know if it's gonna quite give my top tier for Pixar movies, but it's definitely a good solid movie.
I honestly consider it to be Pixar's best movie since Inside Out. I'm going high with that one. So
Wow.
yeah, high
I know I did.
praise.
That is very very high praise. All right, well that has been our box office this week here. Check us out every week, and we will check you out tomorrow.
Later.